This is Becoming UnDone.
So even when I was growing up in the hood, I'm from Brooklyn, Brooklyn dude. I remember our circumstances. You got drugs, crime, a lot of negativity. As I say, I grew up coming into this world with 3 strikes, right? Black dude, born into poverty, born without a father. But super grounded in gratitude. I stayed out of the way, didn't really get influenced by negativity. I always say, how do you become a dope dad if you haven't seen one, right? I remember I didn't even want to be a father, Toby. I was scared. I think mostly because I just didn't have the blueprint. Ain't nobody teach me to do this and that. I had to learn from the streets, and in the streets, you can't really ask questions because they clown you. So you had to my deductive reasoning skills was built early. We ended up having 2 kids. My daughter, she's 8. That's my baby girl, and then my son's 6. That's my young G. And man, Toby, I tell you, I just dreamt what I wish I had, and I 10x that. What's up, good people? It's your boy, Mr. Motivation, and I am undone.
Hey friend, I'm glad you're here. Welcome to yet another episode of Becoming Undone, the podcast for those who dare bravely, risk mightily, and grow relentlessly. I'm Toby Brooks, a speaker, author, professor, and learning scientist. I've spent much of the last 2 decades working as an athletic trainer and a strength coach in the pro, college, and high school sports settings. And over the years, I've grown more and more fascinated with what sets high achievers apart and how failures that can suck in the moment can end up being exactly the push we needed to propel us on our paths to success. Each week on Becoming Undone, I sit down with a guest whose life story proves that sometimes you have to unmake parts of yourself before you can rebuild stronger. I'd like to emphasize that this show is entirely separate from my role at Baylor University, but it's my attempt to apply what I've learned and what I'm learning, and to share with others about the mindsets of high achievers. Today's conversation is one that almost didn't happen. Due to a string of technical issues, and I'll tell you a little bit more about those later, I almost didn't get to connect, or when I finally did, almost didn't get to finish my interview with Shaun Murphy, better known as Mr. Motivation. To add insult to my injury, after I finally managed to salvage the audio file from the brink of disaster, I've now had roofers on the roof hammering and nailing for the past 2 days straight, making the insert recordings, just like this one that I put in the show, impossible to record. I was more than once reminded of this scene from the Christmas classic Scrooged, where television exec Frank Cross is trying to reconnect with his long-lost love interest in the middle of a TV scene construction. Take a listen.
Woken up your husband and your kids?
No, I've never gotten married. I'm still on my own. You?
No. Would you hold the damn hammering, please?
I better go. You're busy.
No, don't go. Would you hold the damn hammering, please?
Frank, what did happen last night?
Claire, it was something that I ate. It was probably a bad clam or something. We don't know yet. I'm definitely going to call because I'm a seafood nut, and, to not eat clams is hell's life for us. Would you please, for the love of God and your own body, hold the hammering? Oh, this is Frank Cross. We at IBC are shocked and appalled by the senseless tragedy, coming as it does at this season of giving. Would you please hold the hammering now?
You got it.
Anyhow, I have survived, maybe barely, but I will tell you that the effort to make this episode actually happen, it was more than worth it. The proverbial juice was worth the squeeze. Shaun Murphy is a veteran, an educator, an artist, and a transformational leader whose journey from adversity to empowerment is nothing short of inspiring. Shaun grew up without a dad. He faced poverty and structural barriers, and he experienced the jarring transition from soldier to civilian. But through it all, he discovered that our greatest breakthroughs often emerge from our greatest breakdowns. From his military leadership lessons to his creative expression and spoken word music, Shaun unpacks how he turned pain into purpose, how he chose to be more than his circumstances, and he gives us a rare peek into what remains undone in his own life and how he leans into that tension to keep pushing forward. So whether you're struggling with identity, reinventing your path, or wrestling with doubt, this conversation is for you. I hope you'll enjoy my conversation with Shaun Murphy, Mr. Motivation, in episode 137. Let's go. Hey, y'all, greetings and welcome back. Becoming Undone is a podcast for those who dare bravely, risk mightily, and grow relentlessly. Join me, Toby Brooks, as I invite a new guest each week, where we examine how high achievers can transform from falling apart to falling into place. And this week, boy, do I have a treat for you. A guy who goes by the name of Mr. Motivation, and I've got high expectations for this one. Shaun Murphy joining us. Shaun, thanks so much.
What's good, brother? Thank you for having me. Shouts out to everybody tuning in, visually or auditory. What up?
Yeah, so glad to have you here tonight. A member of your team reached out, and your story is remarkable, and it certainly fits with the themes that we lean into heavily here on Becoming Undone. We'll get into that. I want to start at the beginning for you, though. A little bit of a softball that I ask of all my guests. What do you want to be growing up and why?
Yeah. So what did I want to be growing up and you know what's crazy? Two things keep popping out of my mind. I don't know why. I might have wanted to been a firefighter, but not a lot. Definitely a soldier. I was married to like those commercials that they go down in the water, come up with the weapon, be all that you can be.
Right.
But yeah, in my mind, I wanted to. I didn't really know that I wanted to go through the training, but that's what I think I was leaning towards.
Yeah. Well, you're probably a little younger than I am, but I know Top Gun was a formative Gen X experience. There were a lot of kind of media things that gravitated high achievers to look at the military. So I love that about your story. We'll flip it a little bit here. You lost your father at the age of 6, and you grew up in what you describe as some adverse circumstances. What was the moment that flipped the switch in your mind and transform that pain into drive? You came on earlier. You're like, I love it. It's Monday. It's time to do better than last week. That's a pretty awesome switch. So talk to me about how that happened.
Great question. Loaded. A few things coming to mind. So even when I was growing up in the hood, I'm from Brooklyn, Brooklyn dude. I remember, our circumstances. You got drugs, crime, a lot of negativity. But my mom's used to, she ain't let me watch many shows. She's from Barbados, super strict. And I would watch Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous by Robin Leach.
Don't miss a sizzling second of the all-new Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Television's unchallenged authority on fame and fortune delivers big surprises, bigger stories, and the biggest names. Candid confessions from the stars of show business and big business, plus intimate tours of the world's most luxurious homes. Seeing is believing, so get ready to party hardy with all your favorite stars on the all-new Lifestyles.
Sunday night at 8 on Channel 9.
This dude's traveling the world, just showcasing mansions, yachts, this lifestyle. I'm like, where's that at?
Right.
And I think I always talk about this, we all have circumstances in life, wherever you're on the spectrum, you have two choices. This is it, meaning life dealt me this cards, this is what it is, whatever. Or there's more. And there's something about that there's more, like Lifestyles help me see like there's more than what I'm looking at right here.
I got to pop right in here and say I am already loving talking with Shaun, and this mindset absolutely tracks with me too. He grew up in what he refers to as the hood in Brooklyn. I grew up on a farm in rural Illinois. Shaun lost his father at the age of 6. I often went months without seeing mine, as what I've come to refer to as an orphan of the coal mining industry. Either way, we both saw how some were living on Robin Leach's Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Before there was cribs and before there were influencers, there was Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And I'm not going to lie, I was a greedy little kid. I wanted all that for myself. So what Shaun says here resonates with me. Life dealt me this hand, which is obviously not what I'm seeing on TV, and I'm stuck with it. Or the flip, there's more. For me, that more and my ticket toward it was education. For Shaun, it started in school and it transitioned to the military before other opportunities started showing up. Either way, I respect the heck out of someone who had the awareness at such a young age to know that he was destined for more. But only time would tell exactly what that destiny had in store.
And I think that was like one of the first things. Remember, exposure is everything. They say when your mind's expanded or exposed to a thing or idea or concept, it can never go back.
Yeah.
So once you see that thing, you're like, wow, you chasing that wow.
Mm-hmm.
And subconsciously, I think it was embedded in my head as I was maneuvering through life. Now, that was the rawness of it. Then I go through life, I go to college, drop out, went to the military. And that's where a lot of growth happened. I learned how to be a man, learned how to lead, how to, have empathy for others. You know what I'm saying? I was a young leader and I have people older than me that I'm leading. I had to learn quick. And I transitioned. I'm fast forwarding a lot. We could go back to wherever you want to go.
Yep.
I transitioned from the military in 2006. And historically, I always have a plan. Murph always know what's next 3 steps. And this particular time, I didn't. I got out premature in hindsight. And this, when I write the book about my life, this is going to be the Blue Funk chapter. I'm in the pits. It's like, man, when you just don't know, you don't know what's next, where the next check is, where the next meal's coming from. And that's like a crazy, for me, who's like, I've learned that I'm not a control freak, but I like to be in control, especially in my life. And that was tough. You leave the military, you give up the uniform, you give up the structure, you give up your tribe. Now you're alone in this world and you don't know. Like, it was just scary. And it's funny, as I'm at this stage in life, I don't think I've ever reflected on this part of life. You get me? So I love that I get to talk about this because my hope is that as I'm on these platforms, I share my story and how I got out of it. And I just hope that it becomes a blueprint or roadmap for someone going through it as well. I usually lead with this. I say I grew up coming into this world with 3 strikes, right? Black dude, born into poverty, born without a father. Now, 2 of those I really couldn't do nothing about. Born a black dude, born without a father. Now, poverty, though, is one thing I could have changed, right? And my mom's, man, shouts out to my mom's, prayer warrior. I'm talking like she's I watch what she sacrificed just so myself and my sister had a chance at success. And I always knew, I didn't want to bring up kids in that environment. And, I wanted more. And I was just so appreciative of my mom's super grounded in gratitude. And I just took a lot of the characteristics from her and applied that to myself. I stayed out of the way, didn't really get influenced by negativity. And I just wanted so much more. It's funny, I think about, I don't deviate, but this is where my energy is taking me. Like, I always say, how do you become a dope dad if you haven't seen one, right? I remember I didn't even want to be a father, Toby. I was scared. I think mostly because I just didn't have the blueprint.
Right.
Ain't nobody teach me to do this and that. I had to learn from the streets, and in the streets, you can't really ask questions because they clown you. So you had to my deductive reasoning skills was built early.
Yeah.
But I fast forward, shouts out to wifey. She wanted 3 kids. I'm like, boo, I don't want none, but you want 3. We got to be in the middle. We ended up having 2 kids. My daughter, she's 8. That's my baby girl. And then my son's 6. That's my young G. And man, Toby, I tell you, I just dreamt what I wish I had. And I 10x that.
That right there is more than worth another look. Here, Shaun laments the power of a good example. It's an age-old question. How can we be for someone else what we never witnessed or experienced for ourselves? In teaching and in coaching, we call this the apprenticeship of observation. To be on the receiving end of an educator or a coach who runs class in a certain way, develops a game plan in a certain way, and responds to adversity in a certain way. In those contexts, The challenge for us is to decide what we like and what we want to keep when we transition from student to teacher or athlete to coach, and what we want no part of, what we want to get rid of. That's the power of apprenticeship. And the fact that we see with our own eyes and hear with our own ears and feel with our own hearts what we absolutely want to keep and what we absolutely won't perpetuate. In this way, even a bad example still serves an important purpose in our lives, demonstrating what we know we don't want to do or be. In Shaun's case, however, he didn't have the benefit of an apprenticeship for fatherhood. His dad wasn't there. But I love the mentality here that he formed in deciding the kind of dad that he wanted and continues to want to be. Quote, I just dreamed what I wish I had, and I 10x'd that. End quote. So in this way, even in the absence of an example of fatherhood, Shaun still knew in his heart what he'd craved as a child. And he now works every day to make sure his own children get that. Even this can be a tricky needle to thread, though. And even though my dad is still around, this is a sentiment I can totally understand. I've shared on the show before how my dad sometimes worked 7 days a week for months on end while I was growing up. My dad's dad was an alcoholic, and home life for my dad was one of abuse, neglect, and poverty. In my dad's attempts to build a life for me and my sister that he never had, he swung the other direction, sometimes leaving us for months at a time without seeing him. And over the years, I've seen this play out time and time again, where I'm tempted to overcorrect for the things I perceived were missing growing up. But for Shaun, it has meant purpose and presence. And even though he never got to experience it on the receiving end as a child, today he's committed to giving it both to his kids and his wife every single day.
You know what I'm saying? I tell them all the time, my present to them is being present.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I'm here. Everything they doing, I'm locked in. I'll tell you this, for those that any of my new fathers or about to become fathers, my approach, I said, what do I want at 18? I want almost like a CIA operative, multiple languages, physically fit, mentally tough, able to negotiate, communicate, persuade, all the things. Then I took that idea and I reverse engineered it. My daughter was 4. She's reading. I had her studying SAT words, right? Because we call them SAT words. To them, they words.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that has been my approach. My best advice I ever got is, bro, have no limitations. Zero. I mean, I had my kids, I had pictures, they're 3, doing suicides, doing drills. Like, you can do anything. Right. And they know that. And we'll probably get into this more about how I've modeled that. But I taught middle school, all boys middle school, right? 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And a lot of my boys, we had similar backgrounds. And I thought to myself, like, man, like that father figure piece is so critical in the upbringing of our youth, especially young men, you know what I'm saying? And I just was like, man, I don't know why I just thought about that, but I think that helped me into even wanting to become a father, because you're that for other people's kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I love that role, dope role in life.
Right.
But yeah, that's what my thoughts led me to that question.
Yeah. No, all good. So much about that. I think for many of us, we have examples that are either excellent footprints that we can follow in, or they're an example of what we're not going to be. And I think far too often I have probably trended, swung so far the other way that it can become pathological, maybe in a different way.
Sure.
But I love that you mentioned those many different hats. You're a veteran, you're an educator, musician, father, husband. You wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Let's break this down a little bit. What's one lesson maybe from your military training that shows up in your parenting or even in your speaking styles?
One lesson from my military training that shows up. Well, I'll tell you, I'm grounded in my Army values, right? Selfless service. I think that is a common thread through it all. Putting the welfare of others before my own, my kids, wifey, the people. Like, I don't think I've took the uniform off but I've never took off the beret or the hat that we had at Staff Shaun Murphy. I got some guys interning. I just started a new venture, and I have some interns, about 12 of them. And I'm in there pouring into them. Like, I just want them to be great. You know what I'm saying? You like, yeah, one of my superpowers, I see talent in people. And I think I just apply that, like all my Army values to life, you know, to fatherhood, to all things I'm doing. Selfless serve, personal courage, integrity, honor, leadership. I think it all just translates well. You know what I'm saying?
We'll be back after this quick message.
Hey friend, let me take a quick second to tell you about something that's been making a real difference for me lately. Bubs Naturals. I've been dealing with this stubborn knee injury that I just couldn't get better. And as somebody that spent most of my life pushing my body, I know recovery doesn't happen by accident. So I started doing some research. And I checked out Bubs Collagen. And I gotta say, I can feel the difference. It's clean, it's simple, and it works. Bubs products are all about helping your body heal, move, and function at its best, which is a pretty good thing for a guy my age. From collagen peptides to MCT oil, and now even hydration products. It's legit fuel for high performers, especially when your body's been through some things. And the best part, because you're part of the Becoming UnDone crew, you can get 20% off your first order. Just head over to bubsnaturals.com/undone. That's UNDONE to grab your discount. That's bubsnaturals.com/undone. Take care of your body, fuel your recovery, and let's keep getting better.
And when I look at all of my roles, education, census, you know, board service, it's all grounded in service and giving back and helping others. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times I tell people, some of my veterans, we lose veterans, 21, 22 a day to suicide. Everybody just they don't make it, right? It's just like, man, how do I help the people? Because I'm gonna be all right. I'll bet on me. But how can I help other people just so that we don't have that outcome? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had a former guest who was a Navy SEAL, and I didn't realize this until he was on the show, and he mentioned that I believe the number was 10-1 of American military veterans who've taken their own life versus those who've been killed in combat since the Vietnam War. I had no idea. I mean, there's so much to that to unpack. But you also mentioned it. Maybe you got out a little early. One of the themes on this show, whether it's athletes or entrepreneurs or military, is identity and how, especially when you become something so early in your formative years. I mean, you go from early in your life and when you're still developing neurologically, you're a soldier, you're in the Army. And then one day you're not. One day you walk out or walk off the base for the last time, and now you're a civilian. Talk to me a little bit about that transition and how that identity has, for better or for worse, spilled over into the work that you do today.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think we talking about it earlier. I left, I think, prematurely. I was banking on, because just to frame it, I'm E6 promotable, running a S1 HR shop, and the military was pivoting, bringing in civilians to take on that slot. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I got my social capital is pretty high up here. And then in hindsight, there's a little arrogance there. I'm like, they're going to pick me up. I know everybody up in HR. And I get out. I didn't really take full advantage of the ACAP process. This is the process to help you transition, right, smoothly. And I get out, and then nothing went how I thought it was going to go. So I go from, making my A6 promotable pay to crack rocks. I'm like substitute teacher. I'm a local promoter because I did that on the side. But this was even more of a challenge for identity, because now I'm this promoter that's bringing artists to the area because of my social capital, but I don't got no capital. You know what I mean? It's like, man, it's just hard to be out and about and people think you're like on this level and just you're not. You know what I mean? So I struggle with that. I struggle with leaving the military, leaving my tribe, and having that support system. And I went into the blue funk. I just stayed in the house. I got to figure this out. And I just kept fixating on figuring it out. But one of the things I think, we're always going to deal with struggle, setback, things not going to go your way. The question is how you bounce back, right? And for me, I have this song, Psalms Wide Open. They said, Murph, take him to church. Pastor, what up? Shouts out to the choir. Through him, I aspire to be great. I walk through the valley, his shadow, there's death. I gotta show love, the big homie, Blue Breath. Bless me abundantly, life, my wife. Gift me 2 kids, yeah, we live in no strife. My palms wide open, I greet you in peace, and I recite my psalms, that's my God, piece by piece. We need his guidance, the sword has them words. When you looking for wisdom, tap into Proverbs. I pray, I speak, meditate. I listen, I listen, I listen, I listen. I pray, I speak, I meditate, I listen. And then the hook is I pray, I speak, meditate, I listen. And at this point in my life, I just had to sit still. I had to sit still, and it's a mindset thing, right? Because it wasn't about, Lord, why this happened to me? It was, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because in life, things happen, and you gotta ask yourself, what's the empowering thing I'm supposed to learn from this situation, right? It's going to be painful. It's going to be hard. But what am I supposed to learn from this situation? And that was my approach when I was in my place where I didn't know what was next, and I was struggling. I didn't know the next meal, next check, next opportunity. I didn't have any clarity. But I had to sit still. So again, the hook to my song, Psalms Wide Open, I pray, I speak, meditate, I listen. And I just sat still and listened, and just, my spiritual father gave me the vision, and I was like, I got to get out of here. I was struggling in New York. I can't do it here. I loaded up the U-Haul, rolled out. Everybody, my boys would have talked me out of it. So I just had to do it for me. That's another thing, and I'm telling anybody that's listening and watching, don't worry about the people. Don't worry about family and friends. You got to formulate what's going to work for you. Even if it doesn't work out, right? Wherever you are, that's where you're supposed to be. And I've learned that over the years, you be like, damn, if I did this, that one. No. You were supposed to be right here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And for me, that's what I did after transition from the military. And I, other than sitting still and listening, I had to really pursue my why. A lot of time I was chasing money, trying to get rich quick, and that ain't it. That's not sustainable. So you got to sit still. And like for me, one of the things I think is I've been reflecting, and I think about my mom's. I think about how much she did with little, not even a fraction of what I had. And I said, wow. But I didn't want to go back to that life ever, like that poverty life, that state in unknowing. And I felt like I was slipping back into that. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know what was next. I'm like, damn, I feel like I was growing up. And that scared me. Scared me to where I had to act, right? So a lot of times, this is what happens, y'all. You got to get to a place where you sick and tired of being sick and tired.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what? Because other than that, you comfortable. You're like, it's not all that bad. No, this is nothing where I want to be. And I had to just start acting. So again, sitting still, allowing the universe to speak to me, and then seeking my purpose is kind of like how I went from what I say, the pits of prosperity.
Yeah, I love that. So you write about unbreakable valor, and you share your powerful code for overcoming failure, and you kind of talk about the genesis of that in your own story. What would you say was the toughest reset? Maybe it was that transition out of the military. Maybe it was something different. Toughest reset you ever had to do, and how did you walk yourself through that season?
Yeah, well, what I was just talking about probably was the toughest, because it was just so much uncertainty. And I'm trying to think, was there another time? You know, I've been failing. What did they say? All my life I've been failing. I think even, you know, when I left college, because a lot of people, you know, don't do well and they stick around, and then now they've been in school for 7, 8 years, no degree. It only took me 2 to figure out this ain't working for me, you know. Now here's the thing, y'all. It takes time, right? I got out 2 years. I had about maybe 4 credits, 1.7 GPA. Fast forward, y'all, 15 years. I'm a college professor. I teach a course on how to be successful in college. You know, I never stopped.
Right.
I mean, I remember, and I dropped out so many times because I was in the military, and I took a class, and now it's harder. It's 3 or 4 hours maybe 5 hours. I'm trying to think, because we did it once a week.
Mm-hmm.
After waking up at 4, going to train, then going to work, getting done at 6 to go sit in the class for 4 hours. I'm like, geez, I should have did this right the first time. But that's what now I'm walking past my friends playing spades and dominoes, and after 3 or 4 times, I said, no, I want to play cards.
Right.
Dropped out again. But I want you to give yourself permission to make mistakes, to fall off. It's just get back on that horse. You know what I'm saying? 15 years later, I got my master's, my bachelor's. I just never stopped. And that's what I want to really impose on you, to just keep going. Never quit. Especially with some, my mom always says, she says, son, your education is something no one can take from you. Mm-hmm. And I remember that. I think that's one of the things subconsciously was always in my head, keeping me to get back on the horse. Because with a big goal like that, I go from 4 credits till I wanted to do a bachelor's. I was 100-some credits. All right, what's the associate? 60. Let's do that, right? Because now you go, I get 10 credits, I get 20. Now I'm building what? Momentum.
Yeah.
Progress translates to happiness. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you want to do them, break the goal down. Digestible.
Yep.
Now you build the momentum. Now you get confidence. Now you go for the next level.
Sure.
So that's kind of was my approach.
Yeah. I read a great quote today that said, if you were to map your journey to success, a failed action gets you closer than a successful thought. And it's like, man, that's powerful. There's beauty in being strategic about it. Like you said, reverse engineering, dissect that down, but then just execute. And that's been something that I've tried to instill in my students is it's overwhelming when you get that syllabus on the first day, but I don't ask you to turn it all in on that afternoon.
Hello.
One at a time,
right.
One day at a time, one session at a time, and we'll get there. We'll be successful.
I'll tell you on that quote, there's a book I'm going to recommend to y'all, Go for No. I forget the author's name, but he talks about the levels of failure. Level 1 is the ability to fail, the willingness to fail, the wantingness to fail. Next, you want to fail bigger and faster. And lastly, you want to fail exponentially. So if you have a team, you got everybody focused on a common goal or objective, everybody's okay with failing to reach that goal. What happens is it speeds up your chance of getting the success.
Yeah.
And I was talking to someone the other day, and they was just like, you know, they grew up, failure is not an option. And I didn't argue with them. I didn't push back. I respect how they, you know, grew up because I grew up the same way. Now, eventually in my readings and learnings and experience, I had an elevated thinking, you know what? If I fail at this thing and I fail again and I fail again, what happened? I have 3 data points on what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to do what? How they doing coaching? We got to make adjustments, baby. Okay? You got to pivot. And that's why I love failing. I chase failure. I chase the storms. I chase the setbacks. I chase discomfort because nothing grows in comfort. You got to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
All right. I want you to get comfortable being uncomfortable because that's where change happens.
For sure. Yeah. There's such a powerful mental shift that occurs there. And I agree with you. I've heard that all my life as well, that failure is not an option. Well, it's all how you define it. Steps towards success oftentimes don't end the way we would have asked for them.
Correct.
You didn't ask to be born into a home where you didn't have a dad. I didn't ask to grow up poor. I mean, there's so much that we can't control, but then there's also things that we can learn from. And there are aspects of our journey that frankly rocket our success in ways that success wouldn't have. Thank goodness I didn't get everything I've ever asked for. You know, how insufferable would I have been?
It's something from the book, to your point. So you're a real estate agent. If you set a goal, I want to sell 10 houses this month. You sell the 10, you throw your hands up, oh, I'm all set. But if you set failure goals, I want to get 100 no's. You may sell 30 houses. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they just re-engineered that approach.
Love it.
And I was like, huh. So I've adopted some of that. I started setting failure. Like, I want to tell me no, you know? Yeah.
So good. Yeah, that reminds me, and we're just kind of riffing off each other here, but my daughter is a vocal performance, I used to say major. She just graduated from college, and she shared with me that they have these master classes and they'll have professional opera singers and musical theater folks come in. They said, your goal is not to land a role because you can't control it. Your job as a performer is to audition. You can control how many auditions you go to. You can't control what roles you get. And I thought, man, that's such a better way to approach that. And for me as a professor, instead of setting a goal of 2 or 3 articles for publication, 10 that I'm going to submit, whether those get rejected or not, I'm going to do my best, but some of that's out of my hands, you know? And likewise, speaking gigs, I mean, there's so much failure. You reach out to 100 different places to book a gig. You can control that. You can't control whether or not they've got the budget for it or whether or not they agree to. I love that mental shift.
Oh, yeah. Powerful.
So you describe your presentations as hip-hop cadences, heart-centered truth, and storytelling. That's not typical motivational speakerese. So tell me what sets you apart from other motivational speakers.
Yeah. It was a funny story. So special ed teacher I was. So I know that in my classroom, my scholars all learn different. So when I, visually, auditory, spoken, but I, going into speaking, I said, I want to create a platform to share my story globally. I'm like, but everybody's speaking. I said, how can I be different? And I just knew there's something about the power of spoken word, and I remember I would listen to this dude, Adam Won't Lose, on Tidal or Spotify. He'd be like, dear hard work, I used to hate you. You made me better. And it's just a little beat he's just talking over. I scratched my mouth. I said, I could do this. So call my guy producer. I said, Pig, I'm going to do an album. He thought I was crazy. I'm like, listen to Adam Won't Lose. He said, wow, okay, yeah, I can see it. I got the beats. I'm like, yo, what do we do next? He said, start writing. So that was July. I forget the year, maybe 2021. And I said, and I dropped the album in November. I was finished with the album in November. But I told my kids, Toby, I said, listen, you don't got to be smart or talented to be successful. Focus and effort. You do anything you want. I said, Daddy don't know nothing about music, but I'm about to go down this rabbit hole. I'm putting my 20,000 hours. I'm going to start studying Jay, Common, Will Smith, Most Def, all the people I think I, align with, and I'm going to do this thing. So before I went full throttle on music, I did my album. I did one rap song. It was real slow beat, but Toby, let me tell you, it was hard. I had such a different appreciation. I said, oh, these rappers, they got to breathe in, all the things. And I dropped the first album, and then I was just like, really? People are like, yo, your spoken word joint is tough. That's your thing. I wasn't convinced that was it. I wanted the music. Because the music, like if I go into a high school and I drop the bunker, they going crazy. Yeah. Mr. Motivation. Look, you know where to come to if you ever get in trouble. 0 to 100 hours, you should get there on the double. Never deviate the plan once you get outside the huddle. Because whenever life hits you, they're expecting you to fumble. Now, I got their attention. I can sprinkle some nuggets, drop a spoken word piece, and it's an experience. And that's been my approach. And after the first album, I just got really married to the music part of it. And for those listening and watching, I didn't need any validation from anybody I knew. Because here's what happens. People know you as the last thing that they really, like for me, the college dropout. People always know me as that. or the army guy. You know, they always know me as that, or as the promoter. But guess what? There's so much more to me. And y'all don't know all of it. And remember, your vision, it starts in your head. Only you can see it, and you're the first and only one to believe it. So you got to pursue that thing. I didn't let anybody tell me X, Y, or Z. I've done all the things. I studied Beyonce Homecoming because I always also do events. And I just love when I'm on stage, I curate the experience. And I practice. Oh my goodness, I practice. Practice makes improvement. And when you go and perform with your speaker, like musician, even if you get nervous, and I do, you default to the level that you practice. So if you practice at a high level, you're not going to poop the bed up there. You're going to default to that. You may be a little jittery, but it's going to kick in, that muscle memory. And let me tell you, people, how you doing, Murph? I said, I'm living the dream. They think it's a catchphrase, Toby. I literally think stuff up. Let me tell you, my daughter, the 3 years since I started, I was doing a show in Pennsylvania. 20-minute set, all music. I'm going crazy. The crowd's going crazy. So I come off stage. She runs up to me. She said, Daddy, you said you was going to do this and you're doing it. Bro, I don't got to make no money off this. That right there, bro. Like, you can't tell them they can't do anything. They see me do it. You just showed it. Nothing. That's it. Bro, can't make this up. And I just encourage y'all, believe in you, bet on you. Like, why would I tell me no? You know what I'm saying? And that's the start. Like I said, when I tell people, I didn't read this, I didn't make this up. I'm living it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting better every day. I got a vocal coach. She coming up, we doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But I'm like, is this what the greats do? I need to be doing that too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I just wanted to share that with y'all.
It's awesome. There, two things come to mind. First of all, the nerdy learning scientist in me would say, what makes for memorable material and content is differences. Our bodies, I say this all the time, we'll be in class and there'll be overhead fluorescent lights and they're buzzing, but nobody notices it, right? Our mind subconsciously filter that noise out. But when you call attention to it, everybody hears it. Like, I can't stop hearing that, right?
Right.
So we, as a survival mechanism, tend to filter out things that are unchanging. Homeostasis. Our bodies love to be in the same place that they were yesterday. They don't want to encounter more load in the weight room. They don't want to encounter more distances out in the street. Our body wants to be the same as it's always been because it takes resources to change.
That's right.
So when you're talking or speaking or rapping, and for me, I came across Vin Zhang. He's a speaking coach on the internet, Australian guy, but he talks about the vocal archetypes, and he talks about how I can be a coach or a mentor or these different personalities, essentially. And if I shift those and I go real quiet, pause, and I use things, and then I get loud and boisterous, that captivates and that creates attention. We've all had the boring professor that just talks in the monotone and then never changes. As a motivational speaker, the fact that you integrate that into what you're doing means that your learning is stickier. People are much more likely to walk away from that. The second thing I would say for that is I love the idea that you're modeling behavior that you want your kids to see. And the fact that you've taken the humility and the vulnerability that it takes to not be great at something. That's powerful. I mean, we all suck at something the first time we try it.
Toby, yes. Yeah.
This podcast, I'm 127 episodes deep, and you would have guessed today that I'm the world's most amateur podcaster. So maybe a bit of explanation is in order here. Shaun and I recorded this episode over a month ago, and I loved every second of our conversation. But what I did not love were the technical gaffes that occurred. On the day of recording, about 10 minutes before we were scheduled to begin, a massive Central Texas thunderstorm rolled in and knocked out power to my house. I was all set and ready to go when life threw me that curveball. It kicked back on pretty quickly, but I had to reboot everything. I scrambled to get everything back up and running in time. And I managed to connect just in time. Then, about 10 minutes into the interview, my internet dropped out, stranding my guest alone in the virtual studio as I frantically worked again to try to get back on. And then it happened again about 10 minutes later. It was not my best moment professionally, but Shaun was a gracious guest, and to his credit, he stuck it out to the end. So then I download the show from my recording platform only to discover that it has duplicated his video and audio on the latter 2/3 of the recording. Meaning if I watch the video of our conversation right now, there's me and 2 different Shauns talking. If one Mr. Motivation is good, then surely 2 would be better, right? Not exactly, because there's just enough of a delay between the 2 that there's an annoying reverb and an echo through the remaining 30 minutes of the clip. All that to say my video of our talk was ruined. But I've learned a thing or two in the 3 years that I've been podcasting, so I was able to take the individual tracks of our audio and preserve it. This single episode took me about 7 hours to produce, which is more than double my normal time. But I knew that what Shaun had to share was so good that I could not settle for less. Had it happened 3 years ago, it would have been lost. I would have either had to re-record it at the inconvenience of my guest, or I more than likely would have just bagged it. I would have lost it. It never would have been produced. But struggling through the process has taught me some things that breezing through never would. It's been said that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. I'm here to tell you, although a massive Central Texas thunderstorm tried its best to ruin this episode, I'm still grateful that I was able to navigate it and bring it to you to hear. That doesn't mean I wasn't embarrassed in the moment, though. I am quite sure it looked like amateur hour. I've dropped the internet twice. We didn't connect. It's okay to suck, and I so appreciate the fact that you're not eating my lunch for how the technical gaffes in this. But man, there's just this power in saying it's okay if I'm not the best at this. Mm-hmm. But like you said, I'm not pursuing perfection. What'd you say? Practice makes improvement. Mm-hmm. And that's it, man. That mentality right there is enough to change my life, but it's also enough to change the trajectory of my family. And generational things can be broken through an example like that. So I love that. It's so powerful. Yeah. So you alluded to the breakthrough bunker. Talk to me about that. This movement. You got this perfect world. Where do you want that to be 5 years from now?
Oh man. So it's 5 years from now. Sheesh. You know, it's crazy. I had maybe 3 years ago, I was on this kick with NFTs and the metaverse, and I was just like, I'm creating this Motiverse, and I'm going to have the speaking platform on there. So I created my own NFTs, all the things. And I was trying to think, because what I do sometimes, I like, all right, what am I doing? How will we be doing this in 10 years? How can I do that now? Right? So that's what I was looking to do, whether it's doing talks in metaverse or whatever, but that's on like the shelf. I'll get back to that. But I wanted to create a space because I travel and I give talks all over, but I'll come and get you fired up and then I'm gone. And you may, hit my social media up and, it may not always be me, maybe my social media manager. I was like, how do I create a space where I can almost be like Professor Murph, but not in the classroom? So the bunker is that like transformational space built for people who are ready to grow, who may not know how to start, who can come as you are, where you are, no judgment. And whether you stuck, starting, searching, we gonna build together. I model this in my classroom, how I teach. I'm the guide. I come in there and I make point and I tell stories, but I want you all to kind of teach each other. You know what I'm saying? And so the bunker is just that. When I go places, I'm like, tap into the free bunker. I'm starting in September where I do a weekly community call where I'm going to do probably like a 5 PowerPoint slide of something I'm teaching, but really like, well, what questions you got? What you trying to do? You want to start a business? What you stuck at? How can I help you? And, we can share with each other. So that's what the bunker is. And it's a transformational space, man. And I'm excited to, really just put that out more and get, a lot of times everybody's selling something and, of course I got the book, got the hat, but here's a space I'm not selling, I'm giving you. There's a book, The Go Giver, Toby. Oh man. It talks about I think it's 5 or 6 laws of stratospheric success. You got to lead with giving. The last law is the law of receptivity, where you allow yourself to receive. I'm not worried about me. The universe is going to work. I meet people like, how can I help you? Oh, go to my LinkedIn. Anybody you need to know, I'll connect you. I offer before I'm asking for anything. And this is just another opportunity for me to give, because I've found in life, man, it's about the people. Proximity is power, right? Who's in your space? And if I can be one of those people that help you go next level, put a rung on the ladder to help you go up, I'm all for it, right? Because I'm here to guide, to help you unearth your talents. And sometimes, and I've learned from teaching middle school, high school, college, parents and friends and family might never tell you, I'm proud of you, or you may be good at this thing. No kind of words of positivity. And then here I come, I'm overflowing you with like, oh no, you could be great. You could do this. It don't matter where you at. Where you want to go. And I think just having more of that, on my platform is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Again, talking with Shaun Murphy, Mr. Motivation. Shaun, I love music, and you've kind of alluded to this. This is a question I ask of all my guests. I've got a mixtape on Spotify that I include that has pretty much all my guests' answer to this. If we were to watch a montage of your life, what song would you pick to play in the background and why?
Toby, hold on now. Now it's funny. Many years ago, it'd been easy. I might have went to Jay-Z quickly, right? That's
it's a little more complicated than all that now.
Man. You know what? I think, so it's going to be one of my songs. And this one is called Why.
How could I stop right now? Too many people counting on me. Yeah, why would I stop right now? I'm almost where I wanna be. Yeah,
Why? These 3 letters are powerful. As a word, it is the foundation for which everything you do in life stands upon. Anything you do, any goal you're pursuing, you have to know your why. It's the reason behind you making yourself uncomfortable as you stretch and grow into the new you.
And in why, these 3 letters are powerful. As a word, it is the foundation for which everything you do in life stands upon. And that's how it starts, right? And it goes into why, and it talks about, my mom sacrificing everything. And like, I have to excel so that her work doesn't go in vain. And it leads me to a quote about, we on this journey of, the success, journey of life. And it's hard, man. It gets tired. I get tired. I'm tired. I'll be tired now. I got another podcast to do. I got to write another book. I got to finish a song. It's tired. But who loses if I don't win? There's someone in Japan, Australia, Africa that needs to hear why, that needs to hear Murphy's Law, that needs to hear my next song that I ain't even put out yet. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately for me, we always heard the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard. It's where people took dreams that would have changed the world to the grave, took ideas, inventions, for whatever reason, fear of failure, lack of support, anxiety, self-doubt. Bro, I'm leaving it all on the table, on the field.
Right.
When Murph go out, let's go back. He took his last breath.
Yes.
I gave it all to the world. There's another quote. They say you plant seeds to a tree that will bear shade that you will never enjoy. And that's just speaks to my purpose, my why, my reason for being here.
That's it. It's that servanthood you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the Les Brown quote / story where he talks about how you're on your deathbed and you're surrounded by the ghosts of the things that you were supposed to do that you never got around to doing. And how are you going to look them in the eye and tell them, I'm sorry I never got around to you know, writing that book or launching that podcast or whatever that is, whatever that why is, that purpose. If I always say strategic and purpose, relentless in pursuit, better every day. The strategic and purpose, we've got to spend time aligning with that because it can change. Seasons change, finances change, opportunities change. I think about what we're doing right now, a Zoom type podcast. Like 5 years ago, people didn't do this. And this is so commonplace. You know, you ask a middle schooler, you said you taught middle schoolers, ask them what they want to do for a career when they grow up. What are they going to say?
Podcaster.
Influencer. Yeah. I mean, that didn't exist during my childhood. So, I mean, if I don't continue to seek out my purpose and recognize that the dials have to be twisted a little bit and you know, I've got to stay in tune with how I'm serving people. Without that, I get lost.
It's funny when you said that Les Brown. One, I gotta go look up for that clip, that story.
For a man, a woman to die, is to have family members praying with them as they cross over. He said, but imagine, if you will, being on your deathbed and standing around your bed, the ghost of the ideas, the dreams, the abilities, the talents given to you by life, and that you, for whatever reason, you never acted on those ideas. You never pursued that dream. You never used those talents. We never saw your leadership. You never used your voice. You never wrote that book. And there they are standing around your bed looking at you with large angry eyes saying, we came to you and only you could have given us life. And now we must die with you forever. And the question is, if you died today, what ideas, what dreams, what abilities, what talents, what gifts will die with you?
But one of the things I've been studying is what are people saying who are on their deathbed? You know what I mean? And a lot of them are saying, you know, I wish I would have just took more risks. I wish I spent more time with family. I wish I didn't care what other people thought about me. And I'm gonna encourage you, viewers and listeners, go look up some of those things that people are saying. That 80, 90 lived a long life. And at the end of it, this is the thought they're having. And I'm hoping the air would inspire you to not have that same thought when it's your turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely have to look up the song. Is the song available on Spotify?
Oh, Spotify, Apple. Yeah, it's called Why.
Yeah. Well, I'll also drop that in the, I create a page for every episode as well. So we'll drop that in as well. And absolutely no judgment that a guy from Brooklyn would have mentioned Jay-Z right up front. So that tracks. I follow you. So you've alluded a little bit to this, but I mean, the title of the show is Becoming Undone, how sometimes we fall apart before we fall into place. What for Mr. Motivation remains undone?
Oh man, great question. You know, it's funny. Life is good, man. Life is good. I've always been, you know, just grounded in gratitude and living in the present, right? I am a visionary, so I do think future. One of the things I've been on this journey is like, how do I use more of this brain of mine? You know, let's see, the book's downstairs. Becoming Supernatural is something I've been tapping into. Just talking about ascension and, you know, sitting still, meditating, breathing. So for me, you know, do I have things to do? Yeah, you know, we got the digital magazine I'm working on. I just bought into a semi-pro basketball team. So we got things, but it's like, how I'm on this quest for self-mastery, right? And I think on that quest is seeking wisdom, seeking knowledge. And then once I understand the knowledge, is applying what I understand. So that's like the journey I'm on. And I think it just speaks to when I do that, I'm going to be able to help more people. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm be more locked in, and I could be speak even smarter. So that's, you know, what's undone, just uncovering me, unearthing gifts that I'm still not tapped into. It's funny, like, even with music, wife will tell you, I used to write poems back in the day. I write poems all the time, especially I'm dating girls. So, hey, girl, roses are red, violets are blue. You know, then I forget about this thing, and I go on this journey, and I tap into my music side. I'm like, wait, no, I got some fun writing. Oh, yeah. Why you used to do this? So sometimes we forget our gifts. Yeah. Right? Because time separates us. We go on these different paths and these different paths in life. So I unearthed something from before. So now I'm like, all right, intentional to get to a place where I unearth other gifts of mine. So that's how I would answer that, Toby.
Yeah, tremendous. It also calls to mind for me the fact that, like we talked about failure. I mean, if you looked at your military career and said, I left too soon, and if you look back on that with sadness or despair or anything other than just you left it all out there, the thing to realize is with this growth mindset, it's not about failure. We're acquiring skills. You know, when you're dating and courting the attention of a beautiful young lady, you're crafting skills that you don't know you're going to use 30 years later, 20 years later, however long. And it really reminds me that even in my failure, there are still lessons that I can take forward into my next success. And without that, it just feels like a loss. And I'm not one to believe in a moral victory, but I'm also not one to just wallow in, at least anymore, I will say, just wallow in all the negative that comes from failing to meet whatever standard was there. Mm-hmm. How can listeners connect with you? I know book, business, website, you got a lot of entrepreneurial pursuits. Give us those socials.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I have one of these on hand. Definitely tap in. Unbreakable Valor, Triumph Through the Soul of Resilience. But on my website, Mr. Motivation, MISTER -motivation.com. I'm on Instagram a lot, Mr. MISTER Motivation. The O's are 0 for zero excuses, y'all. But would love to tap in. And, you know, I'm heavy in the DMs, definitely responsive. On my website, you can find the link to the Breakthrough Bunker. You can tap in there too. And then Mr. Motivation Music. You know, I would love for you to, I just dropped the song Grad Capping for graduates, for the love of women. That was for Mother's Day. And Letter to Dad. Letter to Dad was one. And well, you know, that's something I haven't really addressed for 20 plus years, Toby. And then one day I was sitting and it just came, it downloaded. So that's one of my new songs as well. So I would love to tap in. I definitely appreciate Toby for having me on the show.
Yeah, I'll add all those links in the show notes and description. Shaun, I really do appreciate it. Again, apologies for the technical gaffes. I appreciate your patience.
What's up, good people? It's your boy, Mr. Motivation, and I am undone.
Awesome. Man, that was the best one I've ever had right there. Huge thanks to Shaun, Mr. Motivation Murphy, for showing us that courage isn't the absence of hardship, it's choosing to keep going, even when the world tells you to quit. I'm thankful to Shaun for dropping in, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation. For more info on today's episode, be sure to check it out on the web. Simply go to undonepodcast.com/EP137 to see the notes, links, and images related to today's guest, Shaun Murphy. If Shaun's story moved you, challenged you, or sparked something inside, would you do me a favor? Share this episode with someone that you think needs to hear it. Leave a review, hit subscribe, and help us spread the message. The breakdowns don't get the last word. Comebacks do. Got some exciting news this week. I'm launching a brand new coaching service, and to kick things off, I've created something totally free just for you, my valued listener and friend. It's called the State of Your Life Assessment. It's a powerful tool designed to help you take an inventory, gain clarity, identify where you're ready to go. Think of it as a pre-post test for growth. Just head over to undonepodcast.com/survey, that's SURVEY, to get started. Once you've filled it out, you'll even have the option to schedule a completely free, no obligation discovery call with me. I'll personally review your answers and help you interpret your results. Again, that's undonepodcast.com/survey. I truly hope you'll take advantage of it. Let's get you unstuck and moving forward with purpose. Coming up on the show, I've got a raw and unfiltered conversation with athlete turned record-breaking salesman, Jonathan Shorten, who overcame disappointments in athletics, harrowing false accusations that threatened to leave him behind bars, and a suffocating search for purpose to eventually become one of the most successful young performers in the entire auto sales industry, all before the age of 30. Then I've got Silicon Valley entrepreneur Ileana Golan, who transitioned from an Air Force career to successful startup founder, only to wake up one day and discovered she'd been removed and locked out of the company she built herself. Hear how she turned that experience of devastation and starting over into a $10 million comeback, and the work she's doing today as the founder of Leap Academy. This and more coming up on Becoming UnDone. Becoming UnDone is a Nitro Hype creative production written and produced by me, Toby Brooks. Tell a friend about the show, follow along on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Becoming UnDone Pod, and follow me at Toby J. Brooks on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Check out my link tree at linktr.ee/Toby Brooks. Listen, subscribe, and leave me a review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Till next time, friend, keep getting better.